Hello, everybody, and welcome to Metaphysical Insights. I'm William Becker, and I am very pleased to introduce my very special guest, Liam Shand from Highland Paranormal. Liam's coming on direct from Inverness, and I'm so envious. So, Liam, welcome.
Is it morning? Morning? Good morning?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah, yeah,
Still,
yeah.
for me to be on the air and functioning hopefully well at this hour of the day is pretty unusual.
You're doing fine. Thanks for having me on.
Uh, you're welcome. Uh, well, we had a chance to chat a little bit earlier this week. Liam's, in full disclosure, a good friend, and we chat other than just on our shows. You and your team have been up to some pretty interesting adventures as of late, haven't you?
Yeah, well, my team have. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go on this occasion, but the team were in Edinburgh for 3 4 days. Um, so they had the opportunity to do a couple of investigations with some other teams, and and so they visited a place in Ayrshire called Loudon Kirk, which is an old church and graveyard, with a team, Paranormal and History,
Okay.
who've investigated quite a lot. And interesting enough, the mediums that we use picked up similar things to what these guys have picked up over the years. So that was quite interesting. Um, and some good rod work as well there. Claire um, managed to, without knowing, move from, because she loves Celtic crosses,
Okay.
and there was like a kind of broken one, and when she investigated, she found, well, the base isn't here. Where's the base? So she used her rods and asked, and the rods took her to the graveyard and took her to the location of where the base was.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that kind of thing
Um,
is exciting.
and they also went to, not to investigate, but they went to Rosalind Chapel. So if
Okay.
you've ever watched the Da Vinci Code,
I
Rosalind's,
haven't, but I know of it through history programs.
yeah. So it's an amazing location. I visited a few years ago. There's nothing quite like it. You can't take photographs inside, unfortunately, but Google it and have a look, or watch the Da Vinci Code.
Because
But
that's still on a private house's property, right?
I'm not sure exactly. It's open to the public.
Okay.
So there's a kind of visitor center and cafe, and it's Scotland tourism. We'll if there's a chance
It
to
costs
cash in.
it costs so much money to keep these places
Yeah.
from falling in on themselves. I don't blame them.
Oh no, I totally 100%. It's the only way that these buildings can be um, looked after. And
Yeah.
interesting enough, um, a lady Eileen from Phantom Seekers Paranormal used to play in there as a child
Oh, wow.
because it was just open to everybody back then.
Yeah.
So, but now, yes, it's looked after, and it's beautifully looked after. And I would advise anybody visiting Edinburgh to make a point of going there and seeing it. It's, you're not going to see anything like it anywhere else.
Right.
So well worth a visit there. So they did that, and then on the Monday they finally got into Edinburgh properly. And with Phantom Seekers Paranormal, they investigated the Banshee Labyrinth, which, according to their website, is the most haunted pub in Scotland.
Okay.
Um, it didn't disappoint. The guys had some really interesting stuff going on in there. The history, I should say, on the place is quite interesting. It goes back to the 1700s, and the Southbridge vaults were built.
Okay.
So Edinburgh vaults, most people paranormal wise will have heard of them. So Mr. Boots, the Watcher, he is a spirit that's seen throughout the vaults and in the various buildings that are connected to the vaults, the Banshee being one of them.
Okay.
The Banshee also has a previous owner who we believe, if the stories are true, he certainly persecuted women for witchcraft,
Hmm.
and there is some evidence to suggest he did that in his own home, which is now the Banshee Labyrinth pub. Um,
Okay.
you've also got Birkenhair, the famous body snatchers. They were hunting through the vaults for people as well.
Right.
So people were living in the vaults. Um, what happened was when they were first built, the vaults were going to be used for storage and for shops and things like that. But
Right.
actually, they were so poorly built that you were getting rainwater coming through, so they were
Okay.
abandoned. But there was a big influx of people into Edinburgh for work, and with that, they had nowhere to go. So the poor and that ended up in the vaults.
Now what?
And not only the poor, but the criminals and the people that were up to dodgy things. There was even a vampire circle operating in Edinburgh, and they were using the vaults as well.
Now, when did that all start?
You're probably talking late 1700s into the
Okay.
1800s. So you've got the Highland clearances, probably after Culloden, even it would have started.
Hmm.
People leaving the Highlands, trying to find work with the Industrial Revolution, even more so.
Right.
Edinburgh was a port. You had Leith and whatnot. So there was a lot of industry there. So people left their lifestyle in the Highlands and headed there. What they didn't realise was that they would be in disease-ridden, damp, horrible, cold um, accommodation, if you can call it that.
Right. Actually, the Industrial Revolution, in a lot of ways, created some of the horrors of modern capitalism,
Yeah,
where the workers are, for the most part, are shoved into some kind of a slum that's between crime and disease and lack of air and ventilation and light and water and you name it.
yeah. Well, the vaults
It's
had all that.
yeah,
You know,
um,
ticked every box.
yeah,
Yeah.
and well, I won't get political, but or into economic politics, but yeah, you can see how all this works. Now, would this area have been built up beforehand? Could the banshee be on top of something that was much older?
It possibly could be. There was a loch in the valley in Edinburgh. So where if you know Edinburgh, Princess Street Gardens is today,
Right.
that
That's
was
down by
actually
Holyrood Palace, right?
it's if you Waverley Railway Station or
Where's that?
Princess Street itself, the main street in Edinburgh where all the shops are. Down
Right.
from there's a massive gardens. The
Okay.
Sir Walter Scott monuments above it,
Right.
and whatnot. So it was a loch. Um, and at one point, actually, all the sewage and all that went into it from Edinburgh, from the old town,
Right.
as well. But eventually, they drained that, made the gardens and whatnot when the railway arrived.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I had three, I think, beautiful days in Edinburgh, but it was in 1984. Um, and I know I've walked Princess Street, and I was on a tour. I know we went to the major sites, but I don't think the vaults were even open yet.
They weren't. No, the vaults. I think the vaults were the 90s. They were just
I
rediscovered.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah,
when was the vampire cult in there? Because that sounds something
that.
pretty modern.
Yeah, that. Well, not that modern. I think it was the late 1800s.
After
Um,
Bram Stoker.
yeah, possibly.
No
I
idea.
have done an article on the Highland Paranormal Facebook page, so I will find it for you.
Oh, good.
Because the lady in particular, there is actually an image of the lady who ran this,
Uh-huh.
and oh my goodness, one scary woman.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
Yeah,
Uh, it's good to
yeah.
see people on. Um,
So
I would love to read that. Yeah.
yeah, and 3 days is definitely not enough for Edinburgh. I think we've had this conversation before.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I want to spend a week just going through the cemeteries
yeah.
and
You
not
need a week.
necessarily looking for anything. And as a medium, I focus a lot on the communication, but there's so much history in these places
Yeah.
and the architecture in them and the monuments, and they're incredible places. And I find quite peaceful, even if you see shadowy figures running around and people pop up with their hand, or, it's not quite Carrie out of the movies, but
Well,
um,
it's quite interesting because has got a lot of graveyards. It's got a lot of spectacular graves.
mhm,
Um, St. Cuthbert's graveyard is quite interesting because you will, if you walk through there, especially at lunchtime,
uh-huh.
you will find people in there eating their lunch and things, which is very much a throwback to sort of mid 1800s, 1900s when it was that's what you did,
Yeah,
you know?
you'd go have lunch with great grandma.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And then you've got Greyfriars, which is constantly busy with tours. It's got the Harry Potter connections.
oh, I
Um,
forget about that.
yeah, so
I
the Harry Potter connections are all in there. All the names are in on the graves in there. Um, and there's the Mackenzie poltergeist as well. But the Covenanters prison, which is normally locked up, is actually the most interesting place from a paranormal point of view.
Okay, because that's where the group was imprisoned in this at the end of the cemetery, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I can't remember. They were on the wrong end of an uprising or something. I
Yes.
can't remember the history. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, with the air quotes, I'm taking it that you're a bit skeptical about the Mackenzie poltergeist.
I'm very skeptical because this story only appeared maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago now. I'm not sure the time scale of it.
When the
Um,
tours started,
well,
the ghost tour.
there was basically a story of a poor man taking shelter one night, and he fell through. He was in the Mackenzie mausoleum, fell through, and disturbed the graves, the coffins.
Hmm.
And this is where Mackenzie's supposed to then been released. Now, George Mackenzie, was actually the man who imprisoned the Covenanters,
Right.
and he has a rep of being quite an evil man. But not everybody says he was that evil. But yeah, the tour guides now have milked it. They will anything that happens around the graveyard. It must be Mackenzie poltergeist.
Okay.
People talk about being scratched. They feel sick. Some collapse, but I'm just not buying it. I'm afraid. Every time I go there, I make a point of going to the mausoleum, and
Uh-huh.
nothing happens. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe yet to be proven. I'm open-minded, Tim, but no, I think it's been blown out of proportion. It's a bit like the Greyfriars Bobby statue, the wee dog. Now
Uh-huh.
his nose is all was polished,
Oh, because people are touching it?
touching it, and that's because a tour guide said it was for luck.
Yeah.
And it's
Uh-huh.
no nonsense. Never was. When I grew up, there was nobody would do that.
No.
You know.
Well, I
So
think it's the same with the cleavage area of Molly Malone in Dublin,
yeah,
the statue.
yeah,
And um uh
there's a gentleman. Is it this gentleman? Is it? I won't say Paris. Um, whose groin is rather groin area is rather shiny. I'm sure it's Paris. I might be
Oh,
wrong
which
somewhere.
one is that? Who is
I,
that one?
I would need to check. I'm
Yeah,
hoping Lawrence is maybe checking that for me now, and she'll put it up on the screen.
yeah,
We've
that would be
certainly had a
great.
chuck. We've certainly had a chuckle at that one ourselves.
Well, I could see if it was a statue of Jim Morrison or something by his
Yeah,
grave,
no,
but
no, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um,
But I'll go back to the banshee.
yeah.
Just what the guys. So the guys were actually hearing footsteps. So
Okay.
they were actually hearing somebody moving about uh, when there was nobody about above them. So they think that might have been Mr. Boots. They got some cat balls going off. They got some good interaction on the rods. But probably the best, and this one has me completely stumped,
Okay.
was one of the team. We have our mobile phones for taking photographs and videos. They're always on airplane mode, so they don't affect the equipment.
Right.
And she had an iPhone, and Siri is the app that you can ask questions to.
Right.
And one of the other ladies that was there was asking about, can you put this cat, you can put that cat ball off very nicely. You can do that all the time. Can you put the other one on? And out of the blue, Claire's phone goes, no. Yeah. Um, Now, it's not possible for Siri to do that in airplane mode. There's no phone signal either in the building where they
Right.
are. Um, I've checked with somebody who works in the business, Apple business, and
Mm.
said, technically, is this possible? And they said, no. When we tested it, it kept telling us we had to take the phone off airplane mode. So, did Spirit manipulate the device?
And it didn't necessarily manipulate Siri. I mean, because Siri, if it's like the stuff on Android phones, it says something. I mean, it's an app of some kind, and you didn't get that kind of a. You just had the one word, so
It
there's no
sounded.
indication
It
that.
was City. It was City's voice. It was
Oh, it
definitely
was.
City's. Yeah,
Okay.
it was City's voice. Definitely
Okay.
City's voice. We don't
Yeah.
use apps
No, I know. I
at
know you
all.
don't, but I meant
Yeah,
the app. I meant the app being Siri.
yeah. No, it
My
was
tech
City's.
knowledge is.
Yeah.
It used to be good, but it's far surpassed me these days. Um, I want to go back to having scribes with lots of coal and light and good sharp quill pens and messengers and telegraphs. Um, like I say, I'll pay them very well, but uh, but that's fascinating. And you see, okay, folks. Aside here, Liam and his team know what they're doing, and they know what their equipment can do and what it can't do, what it's used for, how it works, how to use it, and going to the pro shop, then the experts to find out if something is possible, a glitch that just happened or whatever. That's the way you do it, folks. Um, you don't just walk in with a bunch of this kit and say, okay, now it's all a ghost. There are so many different things that can affect the equipment. And if you don't know it, you really can't say for sure what you are or aren't getting.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
anyway, a slight pitch, but for everybody. I'm not trying to criticize anybody or any teams or anything else. Just for those who are new and novices, you've got to do the homework to be able to do the real work.
Yeah, you were always questioning what we get. We're always learning.
Yeah.
We're not experts. Nobody's an expert in the paranormal.
No.
Um, so when we get a piece of evidence, we do everything we can to debunk it.
Well,
When
even
we
as a
can't
medium,
debunk it,
yeah,
then you got to ask the question.
even as a medium, it's helpful when I can get confirmation about something.
Hmm.
Um, if I see, just in general, if I see pieces of physical apparition or movement or different things, okay, is there anything else around there that's the same color, the same height? What's the wind doing? Any of things like that to make sure what I'm seeing is actually real, not a trick of the eye when it's a
Hmm.
physical piece. Um, you've got to.
Yeah, that's the challenge. I mean, I know I'm speaking to the converted here, but with mediumship, is the skeptic's always going to go, well, you can't prove it.
No,
You can't
sometimes
prove
we
it.
can.
No.
Sometimes we can. Now, the really deep metaphysical, no. But if we can describe something that we didn't know about, and then there's historical accuracy, or when I'm reading for a client and I get the description of the people or name or personality, what people are like, all the different
Mhm.
pieces, then that's some pretty good verification.
Yeah, that's
But
what I like. That gives me goosebumps when a medium comes up with something that either the equipment or the research goes, yeah, I agree. I'm like, yes, that's it, nailed it. We've nailed it. We've had quite a lot recently where, because we're working now with quite a few people who are in the team who are spiritually open, where independently they've picked up the same thing on an investigation, not being in the same room at the same time, not talking to each other. And I find that fascinating.
yes, and especially if they don't know the history or the stories
Mm.
where they would have a false
Yeah,
impression. I mean, because you want to, people, a medium may have the best intention and be totally honest, but if they know too much or we know too much, is my imagination coming into this to create something I'm expecting, or and that's all something to be
yeah.
considered. And it doesn't
Even
even mean the reading is false. It just means how much of it's mediumship and how much of it's suggestion.
yeah, even for an investigator, suggestion and is a risk. We
Yeah.
now tend not to tell any of the team the research in advance. Only the
Right.
team lead on the night will have the research, or if
Right.
the researcher's with us, she'll have the research because we found it was influencing people. People were being focused. If you had a name or a story with a building, all their focus was on that. So they weren't going in, you know, looking at everything. They were going in focused, looking for John Smith because he was murdered here in 1805. Um, when obviously you could be dealing with anybody.
Right.
Yeah,
And often the ones that aren't the big story are the ones that want to talk the most.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, who's Ira or Irma? Like a grandma Ira, Irma? When we were talking a couple minutes ago, that just popped into my mind in association with
Hmm.
you. A name. Oh well. Um, if you think about it, if it strikes
I'll
a
have a
bell at
think.
some point, let me know.
Yeah, I will do.
Yeah. Um, how did the banshee get its name?
Because there's supposed to be a banshee in it.
Aha.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, has anybody heard this banshee that can be verified?
Reportedly they have, but
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, banshees are always linked to Ireland,
Mm-hmm.
and but obviously Ireland and Scotland are pretty well connected. Um,
Well, the Irish call it
yeah,
set up kingdoms in the southern
Yeah,
southwestern Scotland.
yeah. So there is banshee stories throughout Scotland, um,
Yeah.
but most of the posts and stories that you see online and that focus on Irish banshees. But that's how the banshee got its name, because it's supposed to have, and the belief is that she could be, that it screams that are heard, obviously, and it could be one of the poor women that was murdered there for being a witch.
Yeah. And thank you for calling it what it was, a murder, not an execution.
No, it was murder. I mean, it's in Scotland now. Things have moved forward, as we said before. I mean, the Scottish government has pardoned all the women that were tried for witchcraft. The Church of Scotland has apologised,
Good.
um, and there's a very big push um, to make sure that the story of these people isn't lost and the persecution that they faced isn't forgotten or
Well,
repeated.
well, and you had men that were probably also murdered for witchcraft. I mean, most of the world did.
Yeah, most were women. A huge
Yeah.
percentage in Scotland were women, but there was men, even in Inverness,
Right.
um, that were that were tried for witchcraft.
Yeah. I yeah, being a history geek, I can imagine. I see it. And so much of it was simply out of jealousy or somebody wanting somebody else's property or husband or I mean
There's
somebody.
stories. There's stories all over that when you actually look into them, it was basically, we don't like you, we want rid of you.
Right.
Um, as you say, I've got something to gain by your death, so
Hmm.
you're a witch.
Yep. And it was awfully hard to prove otherwise. Although
Yes.
some people did and lived through the ordeal. Um, there were people that were found innocent and still whole enough to have a life. But I don't know what percentage. And different countries are different. And this is a tangent, but did you have anybody? Because your family goes way back in the Inverness area, doesn't it?
No, they don't actually.
Oh, I
No, no, no,
misjudged that.
no.
I forgot because I know we talked about it at one point.
The Shand, which is my surname, they come from the kind of Aberdeenshire area
Okay,
originally. Um, both my parents are not Inverness born, so
okay.
they moved into Inverness. So, um, but I think possibly going further back, Shands maybe are connected to Europe. Um, I've heard both France and the Netherlands.
That would make sense. Um, there was a great deal of connection and um, political alliance with France at times, particularly with Netherlands, a huge amount of trade.
Yeah,
Um, and so that would make a lot of sense. Um, it'd be interesting to know how far back.
yeah, it's something I need to look into. I know a couple of my relatives have, so I maybe just need to give them a phone and go, right, I want to
Yeah,
see
it
what you
doesn't sound like an
pull together.
Anglo-Saxon name,
No,
but
no, it seems to be pretty unique to the Aberdeenshire area. That seems to be where it kind of
yeah,
started. If you look at the Jacobite roll call for the 45 uprising, there's two
uh-huh.
Shans, and they're both from the Aberdeenshire area.
You guys have always been troublemakers. I love it.
Yeah,
Hmm. It's the way it should be.
yeah, never upset a Scot.
No, mm-mm, no. Uh, I think it's fascinating, though. Now, I've got a question, too, because I've seen divining rods and heard of them being used by people who really know what they're doing that have had some pretty amazing results. In fact, I have a friend who's retired now, but was an archaeologist who had actually had some, it was not consistent always, but had some pretty incredible results with them in archaeology, just experimenting. How can you make sure, because they move so easily, if a hand is just slightly tipped, you might not even notice it. If you shake just a little bit, I mean, you can create false readings, I would think, easily. Although to get them to really cross or separate a big difference would take a little bit more movement. Is that right?
Yeah, I've never found a way of manipulating them. Not
Okay, good.
in a way that would go, yeah, oh yeah, I'm communicating with something here. Just no, I've just never found a way of doing it. Um, there is it our brains? Is it the power of suggestion? Um, it certainly needs our energies. It doesn't work for everybody.
No?
Um, I seen some people in our team are very good with them. Um, and but also interesting enough, you could give the rods to somebody else, and that somebody else gets nothing in the
Right.
same place.
Yeah.
And it comes to we've done things like you might have a soldier who refuses to speak to a woman.
Right.
So we asked Barry in our team to speak, and he spoke like an officer to this soldier, and the rods moved. We've
Right.
had the Gallic element where we were getting absolute gobbledygook. The rods were just flying about all over the place. We then had somebody to speak in Gaelic, and as soon as they speak in Gaelic, we were getting yes and no responses. And we actually had a medium at one location. She was a guest, and she was a Gaelic speaker. And she said, "We've got a woman here. She can't speak English, but she doesn't want to."
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, the rods are. I always when we use them at events, I basically go, "Look, don't ask me to explain how these work. It's the one tool I'm really not 100% sure how they work." But again, you also need to be aware of the environment. Water primarily. If there's water around, that will affect the rods. Certain
Okay.
stone will affect the rods. Um, but interesting enough, we also seem to have patterns when we've got ley lines. So if we
Okay.
go to like Clava Cairns, which is a Neolithical site, there's certain areas there where constantly the rods will move to follow the lines, um,
Okay.
as if it is following the kind of ley lines as well. So as I say, they're fascinating, and can be very emotional using them.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
actually had them where you can actually feel the tension in them. The
Okay.
actual what should they respond or should they not respond to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I haven't used them much and I haven't had much luck. Um um but I often get the entities saying, "Why should we go to all that work? You can see us and hear us."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's it's fascinating.
Yeah,
I
I mean
love the.
we've
Go ahead.
sorry, William, we've expanded by getting asking questions. Can you spin the rod for the number of people you can see in the room?
Right.
Um, Always seems to work if we're getting good communication.
Yeah.
Um, we've always tried to rephrase a question to see if we get the same answer, or even just repeat a question to see if we get the same answer.
Hmm.
Um, and also, where possible, we will use somebody who doesn't know the history or anything about the location that we're at.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But they also move with thought. So you can think a question in your head and they move.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't aware of that.
Hmm. So again, it's a bit of a mind. Is it us? Are we psychologically moving these rods?
Uh huh.
Um, yeah, they're fascinating, and I know a lot of paranormal people won't touch them, um, but we, as I said, we use them. We don't use them as definitive evidence.
Right.
So anything we get on rods, we have to back up with something else.
Okay, that makes
Um,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it would be really nice to know how well they work. Um, um, that's interesting. And it's interesting too. This person who says her name is Rose has left a similar message on shows fairly regularly, although it's the first time, she says. Okay. Um anyway, um we talked a little bit yesterday or the other day too about um kind of the behavior and what clients
yeah.
should be expected when working with a team or inviting a team in. Do you want to go over a little of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I actually put a post on our own page today, advertising this chat tonight, and I said that there's been an increase, I believe, in abuse towards paranormal groups by, we'll use the word clients,
Right.
um, since lockdown. It's got a lot worse coming out the other side of lockdown. I can say in all the years I've been doing it before lockdown, I only had one individual who was aggressive. Um, Last year, I think 50% of our private work were pretty aggressive towards us, because they're not getting the answers they want.
Right.
Um, we make it clear before we go in that we're not going to fabricate evidence. We're always going to look for logical.
Right.
That's how we approach every private case. We go down the logic route first. Um, and only after that will we go, yeah, you might have something paranormal happening
Right.
here. Um, so what we find is that certain individuals are actually looking for it. They have a motive
Right.
for wanting it, whether it's they're blogging about it and they're wanting a paranormal group to come in and go, yes, and then they can then use that. We've been approached by people who are clearly trying to get a story in the paper.
Yep.
And again, we just go, nope, we're not dealing with that. Um,
Right.
so yeah, it's there's been times last year where I've nearly walked away from paranormal world completely and just said, that's it, I'm not doing this anymore. Um, our services are free. In
Right.
some cases, we're traveling a fair distance to get to a location.
You're
Um,
spending the night sometimes too on some of these private cases, aren't you?
Not so much the private ones in general, we don't.
Okay.
We've kind of got our boundaries for when we do private, but we're quite fortunate. We've got people spread about in the north of
Right.
Scotland, so normally we can get a team members to a location and back on the same day.
Okay. Good.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it's. I don't know what it is. Whether it's just the way of the world now,
Hmm.
I think maybe paranormal TV's got a bit to do with it as well.
Yes, it
Um,
has.
the demon word comes up a lot. Um, and I think that's paranormal TV's got a lot to do with that. Um,
Well, how many of them want you to show up with Grant or somebody from GHI in the TV cameras?
I don't know if there's many that want the TV cameras. There we have in the past turned up at a location to find that half the village is there. You know,
Uh-huh. Well, I'm
um,
just wondering because I know some TAPS teams here, when the homeowner finds that no, there won't be a TV camera, they're no longer interested because they
wow,
thought TAPS, they're getting
yeah, yeah,
ghost hunters.
yeah, yeah. No, I don't think most people go to ask, what does taps mean?
Okay, good.
Yeah. Um, but no, it's just it's frustrating. It's not great when you're getting a call. You get a text message at like 6:45 in the morning from someone basically saying your team are rubbish, and you've been to that location 3 times to try and help them.
Right.
You've gone above and beyond for them,
Yeah.
and as I said to the team recently, I think I've been too nice to people. Um, and this year I've made a point that I'm not going to be nasty to people, but I'm going to be much more picky on what cases we actually take on.
I think that's wise. And I don't know, do you have in the paperwork that you give them before you even start, do you have any kind of a disclaimer outlining some of this
We
or
don't, but
outlining
probably we
client
do.
behavior?
No, we
Pardon me?
don't. And so maybe that's something we should look into.
If
Um,
they're not willing to sign on the line, that might be a pretty good indication that they're not
yeah,
working in it. Yeah.
yeah. As I said, it's people being people, but I should say on the other side of it, we've had some absolutely lovely clients,
Hmm.
and they're the ones that restore your faith in humanity.
Yeah.
We go to some private cases and we're fed like kings and queens and really looked after, and the people really, really are, respectful and what we do and appreciative of what we do. Um, you know, and that's all we ask for. When you just say we don't ask for food or anything, we just ask for you to kind of respect us.
Yeah. Respect
Um,
you,
and
respect your
if we
time.
disagree, we disagree. I would say get another team to go in, see what they pick up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I've known people here that in my area that tenants have wanted to break a lease. And so they've wanted the team to come and find ghosts so they could break their lease.
yeah. I heard that one. Yeah,
And I mean, it's been several years, but um, I've known the people who are involved in the team, um, and I have a couple of teams I work with occasionally if they need a medium or if it looks interesting. But for the most part, um, my focus is different these days um, for lots of reasons. But I've actually been known to suggest people don't hire or don't have a team come in at times if I can figure out who and what's going on and build a peaceful relationship. Then that's not asking it because a team can. You're asking for activity,
hmm
and then you're wanting to say, okay, thanks for performing for us. Now be quiet.
yeah. I get that. I mean, and I think that's why some people don't want a location investigated. I
Yeah.
totally get that. I totally
Uh-huh.
understand that. Um, the other issue that we've had on some is that we've had other individuals or groups not even going in sometimes, but speaking to the people. telling them, "Oh, you need an exorcism."
Oh God.
And once that seed is sown, it's extremely difficult to extract it again.
Hmm.
Um, it's a challenge. It's the one case in particular, that was what it was.
Hmm.
We debunked everything that was going on. We debunked, um, and we said to them, "Look, you've got nothing going on here, nothing to worry about." But they carried on, and I think the other big thing is obviously we've spoken about before is mental health issues,
Yes.
which um, sadly a lot of our cases have links to as well.
Yeah. Were the health issues causing the activity, or the activity is caused by the health issue?
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew some people here too. One of their cases, they were having a demon forcing them itself on grandma and the granddaughter that were living with them. Turns out grandma and grandpa took massive quantities of acid before they had sex, and the demon was grandpa.
Oh.
And these acid, so instead of doing an investigation for paranormal, adult and family services and child protection got involved.
You shouldn't laugh.
No, I mean it's horrific, but
Yeah.
it's one of the things, and I'm assuming you, in part of your screening, you ask about some of that. And I'm not saying that this isn't a value judgment about taking hallucinogenics. This is simply um, medications can create false impressions or audio or sensual hallucinations of some sort at times as just a norm, as a reaction. So I would think checking the med list would be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, we're people are normally very open with us
Yeah,
when we ask these questions, so we got a good idea. Or
yeah.
we'll turn up at a location and they'll open the door and we'll get this strange smell and go, "Oh, I know what that is. You've been on the
Uh-huh.
funny cigarettes."
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Um,
contact highs aren't fun.
yeah, so yeah, it's a big factor. It is a
Hmm.
big factor, and I think I mentioned after lockdown about people being more aggressive, but I think mental health wise, there's been a huge increase um, in that side of things as well.
I think you're right. COVID really did a number on society in a lot of ways, and um, people are still struggling after that. And it's kind of interesting because we one wouldn't have thought it would be that long and that big of an issue. Um, and there have been pandemics worldwide before where isolation was part of it and such. But um, I don't know. I don't know if anybody's really done the psychological studies to fully understand the
No, I don't.
reason why.
Probably not. And I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole here
Yeah,
with that and the other health implications that seem to have had a massive increase
right.
since COVID, like heart attacks and things like that. Well, certainly over here, a lot more younger people are having heart attacks.
Oh, that's interesting.
So yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
it did, as you said, it did a number on us,
Hmm.
um, and I think it'll take a while to 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 kind of recover from that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Uh, we're not always very resilient as a species when it comes to certain things. Ms. Powell is
No.
on, um, but and I don't have a solution for that. This is the psychological word. I'll tell people what my credentials are, and none of them are in the medical, mental health, or legal field. So I always use that disclaimer when I'm doing readings for people too, because I will come up with things that their friends or relatives or ancestors are telling me,
Mhm.
that might involve health, but I make it real clear that I'm not qualified in these. You might go check it. I'm getting this strictly from the other side. You might want to
Yeah.
go check it out. And people have come back to me later and said, "Thank you, you were right," um, which is good to know. But still,
Yeah, I mean, we at least two cases last year. We basically said to the client, "I think you need to go and speak to your GP,
hmm
and get them to you know see if they can help you,
yeah,
um, because the symptoms you're describing to us suggest there might be something medical going on here."
yeah,
Yeah, and we're
good.
not doctors, and we're always clear we're not doctors, social workers, psychologists, or anything like that. You
Yeah,
know, yet people will tell us everything.
yeah. And I'm well, and I don't know all your team members, but you're so easy to talk to.
Yeah, thank you.
And well, and you're welcome. And it makes it people like you, people would gravitate to talk to because it feels comfortable and safe. And people want to share what's going on, with them, to somebody that's not going to judge them and they feel safe with.
Yeah, I might be biased.
And
We've got a great bunch of individuals in the team,
good.
um, that come from all walks of life, um, but are always I've always got an ear to listen.
Yeah.
Um, and as I say, we always conduct ourselves as professionally as we possibly can,
Yeah.
um, and always listen to people on face value.
hmm Yeah.
Thank you, Vivian.
And they're all well earned, Vivian. Um, yeah. Um, and not everybody does that. Like I say, I don't know most of your team, but the few that I've met through the different shows or programs or
Hmm.
chats that you've done too, I've had a lot of respect for and like, um, and that's part of the reason you're on the show. I trust you. You're an
Likewise,
honest person.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. It's not always out there, and that's something else too. I mean, for people looking for teams, if they want to come charge you, double think it. Now, if a team has a lot of expenses to come visit, to come to you, maybe negotiate something with them or not. I mean, especially if it's overnight or something. But I was on a team. We did some out of town once, and we just had great trips. And the client would feed us sometimes, but that was, it.
Yeah, well,
And
that is the other side of it. We've kind of said that we get the opportunity to investigate,
yeah,
um, and also are honoured to be welcomed into people's homes
hmm
to try and help them.
yeah,
So yeah, that for us is more than enough. Occasionally, this week, for instance, I got a donation.
you got to what?
Uh, we got a donation
Okay,
from someone who'd be previously helped.
okay,
Um, and as I say, folk feed us, so we're more than we're more than happy, when we're doing and part of the TAPS thing is as well is that you're non-profit.
right,
But yeah, totally agree. If we were doing something which was a huge distance, we'd have to go. Well, we're gonna have to pay towards even our fuel costs or something.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to get you guys out here, or at least you and Lawrence.
Yeah.
I have a very active haunted guest room, right, Vivian? She's still on. Um, she has stories about my guest room.
Lynn and Colin from the group are regular visitors to your
Uh-huh.
country, but I'm not sure if they get to your area or not.
Okay. Um, but Yeah, I've been really fortunate with the clients and the people I work with what I do, and um, I'm grateful for it
Yeah, you meet
because
some wonderful people. It's off the scale. Yeah, I mean, amazing people, and I've made friendships with people
hmm
that not just in the paranormal community, but people that we've helped and or have come to meets or walks or whatever over the years. Some of them are into the history. They're not really the paranormal; it's the history side of things and whatnot. But yeah, it's really really good. And
yeah,
the paranormal community takes a lot of knocking.
yeah,
There's a lot of people out there who have got their own agenda, but there's also people like yourself, like Vivian, like the guys we're talking about paranormal history, phantom seekers, and that, who are always there to help and support other teams and
right.
individuals and work with them and have no problem promoting them. And we're helping Murray Ghost Hunters, which is basically in the next, from an American point of view, the next county to
Okay.
us. So they've just got themselves back going again. So we're trying to help them get back up and running, and they're a great bunch of folk, and we'll hopefully investigate with them later in the year as well.
Oh, good. Yeah, let me
Yeah,
know how it goes. And if we could have set something up, I'm not sure how many people I can put onto um, a live stream with this, um, but it would be fun to have a group. Um,
we can certainly do that, or we can use. I've got Highland Paranormal's got a StreamYard account, so we can. I think we can have up to 10 people
okay.
on at a time, so we can
Vivian, do you know
sort
how
something.
many I can have on my StreamYard? Vivian set it up. Um, and um, because I think it'd be a lot of fun. And, you know, people in this field also have the interest in history, which is my
Yeah,
bachelor's degree and my basic love. Um, and people who love history can't be all bad.
no, not at all.
Not in my book. but um, but yeah, so just in general, people, if you've got a team that's everything's a demon or you need a clearing or an exorcism, especially then if you've got a medium or a team that says, oh, we can get rid of this for you and it'll only cost you so much, run away.
Yeah,
Run fast the other way. Um, oh, she
yeah.
thinks we can get 10. So cool.
Hmm.
Um, maybe we'll talk offline soon and see what we can set up.
Yeah,
But there's so many really good teams and people out there, and then they're like in everything, there are charlatans,
yeah.
and there's a tendency, both that from a client perspective and teams, certain mediums and stuff too, where the need to be special and different and the ego are what's behind so much of it, and that's not a good motivation, and it doesn't usually bode well for the actual ability of that team or medium wannabe. I'll say I'm
Yeah.
trying to be nice.
I
I think
think there's
most
a
people.
pressure when you set yourself up like that. You've got to deliver,
Yeah,
and then when you've got to deliver, that's when the fakery, um, you know, comes into play.
I've heard that was one of the problems that some of the people, known psychics especially, had on some of the TV shows, like Most Haunted and some of the other ones too. I don't know if that's true, but um, yeah, if you've got the cameras rolling, you got to perform.
I know for a fact that at least one of the mediums on Most Haunted left because they were deliberately leaving history around them before recording. So sometimes they put him into a room that was full of information boards about the location or whatever. And he said, "I'm just not up for that." You
Yeah.
know, most haunted is entertainment, and that's
Yeah.
you know that's all it is.
Yeah. All the shows are.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, as we always say when we do an event, we go, "This isn't TV.
Right.
You might be here tonight and nothing happens."
Right.
Um, it just depends. You know,
Real life investigations are often pretty boring.
oh yeah,
Once the entities don't want to talk to me anymore, I'm done. I'll meet you at the pub.
yeah. Yeah. Evidence reviewing is even worse. Sitting through 10 hours of audio and getting nothing,
Well, and with
12
my
hours of video and getting nothing.
yeah, and with my ADHD, I could be off in total different locations as the audio or video going and miss something because I'm not focusing well enough because my brain is bored or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so
um,
it's not all exciting, unfortunately, is it?
no, I take video all the time because that's how I take notes. If I have to
Yeah.
stop and write, I break the concentration a little bit. And so talking out loud, that's my note taking. And I just use it for that. Now, sometimes when I'm going back through to get information out, I'll see something.
Hmm.
But most of the time, I don't even bother looking. I've had them so often when I've wanted them and asked them to show up, they've told me, like I said before, why should we? Um, and I said, well, yeah, I can't prove that I've heard and see you though if you don't. And that's their attitude has been, well, that's your problem. It's like, oh yeah, you're right. You got a point. So I quit asking. I quit looking. Um,
I'm not convinced we've got the technology. We've discussed, I think we've discussed this before, but have we got the technology to actually capture a ghost on camera? I'm not convinced.
it's really interesting for that. Yeah. Um, there are things that are certainly abnormal. I've actually taken some pictures that pretty clearly had somebody, and that was with a reasonably expensive DSLR. Digital still, but a good quality Canon, SLR.
I'd be interested to see them because, yeah, yeah.
I've got to find them again. Um, huh.
I think it depends. In a lot of cases, people want a medium.
Yeah,
And I think in a lot of cases, Vivian, I think what they're there for isn't maybe just what's going on at the location. They want to see if their granny or whoever's going to come through to the medium.
right. And
Uh, so, yeah, I know what you mean. When there's a medium there, the kind of almost take over in a certain way. But again, we always don't take this the wrong way, William. I think I've said this before. We always tell our mediums, "You're just a tool."
yeah, and
Um,
that's exactly what we are.
yeah,
We are somebody that can communicate and fill in information that your machines can't.
yeah, yeah. So
And we can say, okay, well, yes, and this is who this is, and this is why they're doing that, and here's what you can do about it. Or we can help with EVP investigations and such. But when I'm working with a team, I ask the team what they want from me and how they want to do this. The last investigation I was on, and I took a really dear friend of mine who's um, just incredible at the work he's doing. I'm mentoring him, but um, He blows my socks off as how good he is just in that without the training, just instinctively. But he's another one of the very old souls. And um, we were surprised that the team wasn't doing much, a little EVP work, but not much. But they already had on it all the documentation, all the evidence they needed from videos and pictures and readings and all the rest of it. They wanted, and the clients wanted the medium to help understand who was there and what was going on. And I've been able to work with people who wanted whatever was in their house gone, but then when I could tell them who was there and why and what was happening, and that they could make ground rules, they were happy to have the entity stay because it wasn't a fear anymore. It wasn't an unknown.
Yeah.
And so it's for me, it's a case by case, and just who's looking for what.
I think it comes back to what you were saying about egos.
Yes.
The mediums that we work with, none of them have got egos.
Yeah.
Um, so they don't want to be center of attention.
Hmm.
Um, so from that point of view, when we do events and whatnot, it runs pretty smoothly.
Hmm.
They'll chip in when they can, when they pick something. Sometimes they go, some will go, nah, nothing happening here tonight.
Hmm.
That's what it is. And that impresses me
Yeah.
because if you go into a location and a medium picks something up in every single room, you start to get a little, and especially if it's generic,
Yeah.
and I've worked with and I've taken other mediums around locations and just like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
This is not going in the right direction here at all. This is, you're struggling and you're making it up.
Yeah, or you're forcing so hard you may not even know you're making it up, but you are
Mm,
really. Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, I'd love to know what your opinion is. I think there's a lot of people who have a gift but have no real idea how to use it and control it.
Oh, absolutely. I think psychic ability of some kind is part of our DNA, and it goes back before we had language. That so that it was a way of survival, I think. And you might call it instinct or whatever, the gut feeling, but there's more to it than that. It's knowing that, okay, that guy with the club is here to help me hunt. That guy with the club is here to take my spouse away, or come and take what I just killed.
Mhm.
Or no, the logical way to go is that way, but there's a big saber-toothed tiger waiting to jump on me, so I'm going that way. You know, um, just basics like that. And then there's so much more. And then people, a lot of times, they have a little tiny bit in a class or something, and then all of a sudden they want to be professional. And it takes a little different level. Um, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Vivian.
Yeah.
Um, it does happen. Um, our guys would tend to go, right, we'll take you into another room, the individual, and speak to you.
Yeah. And
Um, because if not, what it does, it takes over the night and you lose sight of the location.
mhm,
And human nature is always going to be that if a medium comes, through with somebody that you love who's passed over, you want to know as much as possible.
Yeah.
But the other
And
10 guests have probably got no interest at all,
no.
you know.
And
And it's personal.
I try to, sometimes this happens in classes, and try to refocus people on what are you picking up here? I mean, it's wonderful that your daughter is here, and I've told you that on the side because that's what was there. But let's focus on the rest of this. This is what everybody paid to be here for. And then with an investigation it would be different. Now, the investigations I've been on and what's normal over here aren't the big group events like you're talking about. They're individual private clients usually.
Yeah.
And if that's part of the activity in the house, or who's around, or who's helping to protect the people in the house, then absolutely that's vital. And you you definitely want to put that out.
Hmm.
Um, and so, but there isn't an audience. It's just that's a piece of it. And I'm not trying to get these people then to come book me for a reading when I charge. When I'm on an investigation piece, I don't, I'm part of the team, I don't charge. Um, if people want me to come out and read their house for them, I don't charge for that. That's not a reading per se. I don't do it very often, and it's better in person, but I can do it over the phone. Um, so it's just, I don't know. It's hard. I'm not very good with absolutes. You've got to take situation by situation, in my
Oh
view.
yeah, 100, 100, 100%. That's something that I've learned
Yeah.
over the years of doing this. Um, we always tell a client that whatever the outcome, if they need us again,
Mm-hmm.
we're there.
Yeah.
Um, and our approach is very different with a private case to an event. Very,
Right.
very different.
Yeah.
Much smaller team. Uh, we'd always try and have one medium with us,
Mm-hmm.
but probably not two, just the
Just.
one.
Yeah.
Um, and we'd be trying to gather evidence, debunk. Um, we did one earlier. It was earlier this year. I think it was this year. I've lost the dates and everything over the last couple of months.
Uh-huh.
But they had previously had um, a spiritual person come into their home and basically tell them that they had dark energy in certain parts of the house and that they should avoid certain parts of the house
Oh my God.
and that their children weren't sleeping because these dark energy was preying on them basically.
Children weren't sleeping because they spent too much time on electronics before bed.
Well, you're onto it there because what the dark energy actually was high electrical fields.
Okay.
So everywhere that the spiritualist had said you had a dark energy, when we took our meters into that area, they were going basically into the red.
That's pretty
And
high
it was
energy.
all around electrics.
Yep.
So our advice was, well, you've got far too much electrics around the head of where your child is sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to need to move the bed or move the electrics. But guaranteed you do that, they'll sleep better.
And
Um,
here I'd recommend getting an electrician to check into it.
yeah, the problem you've got with a lot of the houses here is they're quite old,
Right.
limited plugs.
Yep.
So you've got four ways. So you've got plug upon plug upon plug, and yeah, it just bleeds EMF.
Yeah.
So that was reassuring, but it was also fascinating for me because this spiritualist had detected this energies, but their interpretation was different.
Well, and to say it's a dark entity is putting a value on it,
Yeah,
saying
that wasn't,
yeah,
it wasn't good. We did speak to the client about that, and
yeah.
it's, I've never scared. The one thing I'll never do, and I've always said this to the team: never scare somebody.
Right,
You know, if we go in, we are being seen as, I hate using the word, but professionals.
right,
We're not professionals, but we're the people to help. The
right,
last thing you need is the people to help, either running for the hills or going, yeah, you're really in trouble here.
right.
Now, we've gone into locations where other individuals and groups have gone in before and said, yeah, you've got a really nasty thing here. Sorry, can't help you. Bye.
And all you do is leave people in a panic.
Yeah,
It's
and
really
again,
not
it's back
even
to sowing the
true.
seed. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
My favorite one is there was a house where there'd clearly been a flood in the kitchen.
Uh-huh.
So the laminate flooring had warped.
Okay.
A medium had come in and said, you have a sea of souls. It's a portal, and you have a sea of souls under that floor. That's why the floor is what it is. And you've got all these souls and spirits coming up. Yeah. Still looking
And
for that
those are
sea of
the
souls.
ones and they're the ones that get all the notoriety,
Oh, yeah.
positive and negative.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's crazy. And I really feel for the customers who or the clients that buy into it.
Well,
Um,
people trust them.
yeah,
That's, that's the thing. And it's, sometimes we go in and they'll go, oh, how have I been so stupid? No, you're not being stupid.
mm-mm,
You've taken that on face value.
mm-hmm,
If there's anybody stupid here, it's the individual who said that.
right.
It's not
And
you.
no, and the the client needs to be diligent in their homework on who they select to come in,
Yeah,
be it a team or be it a medium or whatever. Um, and I'm not trying to blame the victim, not at all. I'm just saying there are, if you don't know people, if you're not getting word of mouth verifications, try to look them up a bit and see if you can find something that gives you some kind of an idea about honesty, integrity. You're not, if you find accuracy charts with the percentages, that's a good sign to stay away. But
yeah.
um,
The difficulty is we've been going almost 15 years now,
yeah,
and we still meet people on a regular basis that go, "Oh, I never knew you guys existed." And it's like we've we do everything we possibly can to get our name out there. Um,
same here. I know what you mean.
but yeah, it just, I don't know what it is. I mean, obviously, if you over here with spiritual church network and things like that, so there's a lot of mediums working within that,
Hmm.
those kind of circles. So obviously, if you're into that, going to that, that's where you're going to go to get help.
Right.
Um, but as I said, it's, at times it's like, well, we've been here, we're on the internet, we're in the newspapers, we're on been on the TV, try everything to get our name out there to
Yeah.
help folk.
Yeah. I know what you mean. For me, it's the business aspect of it. I don't know what DBS is in your country.
DBS. Might be something in England.
Yeah, I don't know. Um, but you can't just get background checks and stuff like that.
We can, yeah. We do as TAPS members. We
Yeah.
do a check um, on folk. You can
But
get.
I'm
I can't remember what. It's not a DBS in Scotland, but you can get a background check. Costs
yeah.
money, but you can get back. You can get background checks done on
Yeah,
people.
and
Quite
that's not
quite a
something
few
that
of our team have them because they're working with children and that anyway.
right.
So they've got them. But yeah, basically it is a background check, and
Well, and
taps actually ask for that.
okay. And I've had the background checks because of volunteer work I do,
Hmm.
but I don't get those. I, I, I don't get anything I can show. I mean, that stays with the organization. I don't, yeah.
I think it's
So
different in
it's,
America than
yeah,
what it is here. 'Cause I think it's more costly here for the start. I think.
yeah, I don't know what they cost here, but it's not something that you can, well, you can run them, for, like for renters or something, but that
Mhm.
would be the client doing that, and the client would need access to things like social security numbers and such that I'm not going to give to
No,
somebody. I'll give it to some of these organizations I'm part of, because they have to have it to let me volunteer. Um, but that goes then through the government. Um,
it's a very valid. It is a very valid point.
yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
there has been some quite horrible, high profile, even in the UK,
hmm
of individuals within paranormal teams.
yeah. Well, and Vivian mentions that, where children are concerned, but in this kind of work, there really aren't, you're not alone with children, for one thing.
Never.
And,
Normally, we ask for the children to be out of the way
yeah,
when we work. We don't
yeah,
really want because we don't. Children are not daft,
no,
and if we then with our gadgets and things like that, especially if they're a certain age, they know
right,
exactly what we're doing. And then in some cases, the parents, rightly, they don't want the children to know
right,
that we're there.
absolutely. And if a parent or a guardian wants a child to have a reading from me, well, I'm happy to do it, but I give them in public places.
Hmm.
And if the parent and the child are comfortable, I want the parent there.
Yeah.
I'd let people record them if they want to. Um, it's and it hasn't something that's come up much. And even on events we do where there might be minors, um, well, those are larger and it's through the city, and so I've had the background check. But um, when I did ghost tours, if there were kids on the tour, I talked to the parents about what's the sophistication level here,
Yeah.
Um, there's a private school I work with once a year on a variety of paranormal different things, usually eighth graders. And they're smart kids. Um, they're kids that have a good background. But I asked the teachers, okay, how much do I have to tone down? How much do I not? With some of the stories.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. When I did my ghost walks, um, I had a few occasions where younger children were coming
mhm,
along, and it was clearly they weren't that interested. Some of them weren't that interested. Others were terrified,
yeah.
and I had to tone down the stories I was telling.
That ruins it for
So now
everybody.
I've put right. This is really only suitable for over 12s,
Right.
um, you know, and they must be accompanied by an adult.
hmm
So so yeah, I get that. I can't get into the mindset of a parent who thinks taking a 5-year-old on a ghost walk in the dark is a good thing.
Yeah, I would have been scared at 5.
The poor girl, I remember, she was just, she's terrified. And then you get the kids who are just like, they love it. They lap
Oh
it
yeah,
up.
yeah. A lot of
I
them
had
do.
I had one boy who came twice, and on the second time, one of the stories I totally forgot about it. And at the end, he said, "And because any questions?" His hand went up. He says, "You didn't tell the story about." So that was me told off.
Uh-huh. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, when I did the tours, we had things happen on the tours frequently. Um, I knew a lot of the business owners and stuff, so I got updates on what was happening. So we never did a my tours anyway were never the same twice. For one,
Mm.
there were just too many things. You couldn't fit them into a 2-hour walk. Um, and so uh, it was a great way to make sure it's always a fresh tour. So
Oh yeah. Well, mine are always like that. I mean, mine are always there's always new stories. Um, I'll forget something.
yep.
It depends what people ask on the night as well. What's really so my first public one this year is on the 17th of April, which is
Okay.
the day after the Battle of Culloden.
Oh,
Now, on the 7th, by the 17th of April, Inverness was fully occupied. There was lots of Jacobite prisoners.
yep.
There was executions, all sorts going on. So I'm really interested to see what the activity is going to be like around Inverness at night on those days. And I will be going. I do cover one of the locations where there was Jacobite executions.
Okay.
So I'm interested to
That
see
would
how that
be.
goes.
Let me know. Let
Yeah,
me know how that goes.
I will.
Yeah. Oh, Liam, it's almost noon my time. Um, this has been great. I could go for another hour and a half, but I can't. Um, do you have anything last? And let me see. Your website is Highland.
HighlandParanormal.org.
I think I spelled it all right. Come on, there. Does that look right?
Perfect. Yeah,
Great,
absolutely perfect. Thank you.
great. Thank you. And thank you so much. It's always such a joy to have you on the show, but also talk to you. So,
Likewise, thanks for having me, and always a delight to talk with you, William. And we'll need to get you on one of our live chats as well.
I would love it.
Yeah, we'll
I've
sort the
always
time
enjoyed
and
them.
whatnot.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we need to just do another catch up more regularly.
Oh, definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
Well, everybody, thank you so very much for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. It's a beautiful sunny day here. And um, yeah, there's lots of big things going on this beautiful sunny day around right now, but I'll just leave it at that. So take care, all. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.